Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 212. Turn and face the campaign changes. Recorded on Friday, August 19th, 2022 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Yes, we shall. Start with some announcements and events. All righty, Tyler. As always, we do our CRM Zen Show every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We're glad you could join us. And if you head over to zenatta.com/events, we keep track of all the events in the world of Zoho. Here's what's coming up in August. On August 23rd, on Tuesday, you've got Zoho People Overview. You've got using Zoho Sign to virtualize employee onboarding and lifecycle management. Starting in early September, we've got the whole Zoholics Europe kicks off. So on September 7th and 8th in London, England, that's where they're going to start it off. If you if you want to meet up with us, actually, we'll be walking around. At least Tyler and I won't, but Wayne from Zenatta will be there, and he'll be wandering around. So say hi if you can track him down. He'll be wearing a Zenatta t-shirt. Should be easy to find him. And then Tyler, I guess we're going to do Zoho Learn full product tutorial. That is our September 20th webinar coming up. So our September webinar is going to be on Zoho Learn. It's going to be exciting.
Very cool. Be a fun one.
There
We
you go.
actually
And
use
then
that one internally pretty heavily nowadays to
we
document
do.
our own internal trainings and best practices. So might have to tap in Josh and Greg because they are power users on that
I would
application.
say so. Yeah, that Hunter as well, right? A lot of people doing
Mhm.
stuff on that application internally here. And then our Zoho for October, we're going to do Zoho survey, which I guess we've never done. So that'll be a fun one to do as well. November Trainer Central. So we are just rolling along. And you say, what are you doing in December? Well, December is the year in review. It's the Zenmies. We'll be doing that as well. So we've got all those coming up anyway. Zenatta.com/events. Keep up on all the latest and greatest in the world of events. All right. With that, Tyler, let's get on into the news. We had a big week for Zoho campaigns. There was a blog post over on Zoho celebrating 10 years of Zoho campaigns. Sridhar even did a video on it as well. So you can kind of check that out. But, this was kind of a nice little post. Happy that they had 10 years of campaigns. But then they followed that up, Tyler, with just a ton of campaign news. Consequently, the title of our show, a whole bunch of changes happening over at campaigns. So let's start with they are launching AI-backed product recommendations for e-commerce stores. So I have not really had a chance to look at this story. What are they doing here?
Well, so essentially when you integrate, like, most recent one I did was a WooCommerce over to Zoho campaigns, it actually will pull over all of the customers from those platforms, as well as the orders and the items in their orders. So it's actually pretty cool. Like, even before this update, you could say if someone had ordered product A, I want to send them an email with a coupon for product B, right? And so I'd assume what they're doing here is they're actually looking at the list of orders and the items on those orders to look at things that oftentimes co-sell, right? Or look at things that are your best sellers, new products, right? Similar products, to make some recommendations for you. So pretty interesting tool. I mean, there's definitely going to be cases where you know best, right? You buy coffee, but not a coffee grinder. I want to manually
Right.
set that up. But the nice thing about AI is that it might discover certain trends or, relationships that you wouldn't discover. I think a classic one is I was a big grocery chain. This was a couple years back, was looking at co-sold products. And one of the most commonly sold products along with diapers is beer, where you would never make that association. But when you run an AI model on all of your sales data, all of a sudden you learn these two products that might actually sell together quite well. So sometimes it's nice just to be able to let AI take the wheel and maybe try something that you wouldn't have come up with yourself. So it's a pretty cool update on the campaign side.
Yeah, it's very cool. So basically, you've got a widget here called product recommendations. When you drag that into your email template, it is going to look at, is it going to actually look at what they've purchased already and maybe make other recommendations
Not
using
sure quite
AI?
yet. Yeah, it's not clear from the article if it's going to reference kind of what they've already done or just reference the order data as a whole.
Looks like top selling products recently added type products, similar
Yeah,
products,
frequently bought together. Yeah, so it's referencing some order data.
uh, people
People
who
who bought
bought
this
this,
also bought.
bought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty cool.
nice. Very, very, very nice. Yeah, I mean, in the past, you kind of had to build out separate campaigns and you had to segment your people out saying, if they bought this, I want to send them an email on this. So definitely, definitely helpful. Moving along with campaign news, campaigns now gets its own SMS gateway. So they're no Twilio now. It's going to be SMS Magic or campaigns because you've always been able to use Twilio. And I guess
Hmm.
now they're saying SMS Magic was always there. So I wonder what they're using here. They're using,
I
got
mean,
to be
they got to be
Twilio
using
based.
Twilio, right?
Got to be.
They're just white labeling it. You'd have to assume
Yeah,
they're using Twilio.
I think so.
Mhm.
I think so. So they've always had SMS. That's been there for a very, very long time. I guess by getting its own gateway, maybe they're doing some white label. Or maybe they're
Yeah,
basing it off Zoho Voice. I don't know. I always thought Zoho Voice was Twilio based at the end of the
I
day,
thought so
but
too.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
I'm
thought
not
so too.
sure. All right, and moving on with campaign news. This is the big one. This is the one that everybody is just absolutely thrilled about. We're doing backflips. If you have a workflow, you can now actually just go ahead and edit it without closing it, cloning it, doing a brand new one, starting over, having the whole thing. This used to be just a major, major problem. I know our team is pretty excited about this. So, what's a
Yeah.
workflow? Well, in campaigns, you've got someone, they enter the funnel. If they do this, then that happens. If they do this, then this happens. If they click on this link, we go over here. Maybe you move to a different campaign. Well, if you wanted to make small tweaks to an existing workflow, and by the way, the one, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's 4 different items. These can be big. These can be
Hmm.
massive.
The 20,
You just
30 emails, right, sequenced out,
yeah,
with a bunch of different branching logic, and these are not always as easy as what that image looks like up there to configure.
right. So this kind of gives you a whole different way of it's nice to not have to basically stop it. I mean, and clone it and then have a new one go.
The big thing
So
too is that it caused from like the user side a real pain in the butt if you needed to make a change. So like if you turned on a workflow that had 5 emails and you loaded 10,000 contacts into it, and let's say after they receive email 2, you realize that there's a typo in email 3, while you can make a new version of the workflow to edit email 3, none of those existing people that have received emails
right,
1 and 2 will move to the new version. So, what you would essentially have to do is make a new version that goes just from emails 3, 4, and 5, manually
right,
move the people over to that one, and then deploy the new version for existing people. So, like, there were workarounds to do this, but it was just not a
painful.
good workflow for the user. Yeah, just painful to try to do all that.
So
So,
so 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 painful. So this is an update. It's a long time coming.
yeah.
Good job on the campaigns team for that one.
And to
All
quote
righty,
Greg on this,
and
"Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, that's amazing." Like, that's just outright Greg.
all right, and then also in campaigns, you now have right to left content editing. This is for our friends in the Middle East, those in Arabic. So there you go. You can now edit right to left, keeping up with the times here. So fantastic. And I think that's it. Yep, that is going to do it for all the campaigns news. So with that, let's move on to some CRM news. You can now perform mail merge operations in Zoho CRM right from your iPad and Android tablet web browsers too. Um, I don't get this because I've always been able to do this, I think.
So
Um,
not in the app, right? This is in the
Not in the
browser
app,
itself. Yeah.
right? Because I've used this. I mean, the browser on the iPad has been able to support client-side scripting. I've used it for that.
Mm.
Um, and so I don't understand. I would think it would do this as
Must have just
well.
not been there. I guess the button just must have been gone or something for the,
Disappear. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Interesting. One thing I'll tell you, if you got since you're focusing on browser-based implementations on a tablet, Zoho, here's something to consider. Um, Look and see that the browser is in fact running on a tablet and allow someone to take a photo. That's the thing that's the thing
Mm.
that's missing. We have a lot we've got an implementation with a client. They like doing things on tablets. They can run through the
They needed
client.
client scripting, right, for this use case. It was super
They need
important to
client
have the client
scripting, so
scripting.
they like to run on the tablets because client scripting is super big for them. It makes their life super easy. But then they need to go and they need to take a picture of the person and attach it to the record. And you can't
Mm.
do it in the browser side. You have to flip to the mobile app, take the picture, and attach it to the record that way. The mobile version of it. So clearly, they're looking at this, and you do know if it's a mobile version of the browser that's running. And if you would add that, boy, that would be slick. That'd be super slick. And I'm thinking for spas, things like that, gyms, people that want to do before and after
Mm.
pictures, those kind of things where they're doing it live, they're doing it on the fly. Otherwise you're just taking a picture and you're attaching it. Sure, it's an extra step. Kind of nice though, since you got a tablet in your hand, if you could do that. But I guess this is a new thing. So congratulations. All right. And then moving on, also with Zoho CRM, new enhancements to wizards. Todd, you're a wizard, Harry. What do we got here?
So a couple things with wizards. They're kind of like a multi-step way to essentially like create a record, right? They're a little limited in terms of what they can do in terms of process management, but they are kind of an easier way to add data. So what they've done, they've expanded a little bit about the conditional rules around showing fields, setting things as mandatory. So now they're essentially letting you do it both on your standard create as well as create or edit. Um, and then I think the other one is some improved support for custom buttons inside of Wizards. Honestly, we find ourselves using blueprints most of the time when you need like a structured way to get data in, just because Wizards are a little temperamental and they really only work well when you're initially creating something. But if you need to come back and make sequential edits over time, we just don't find it to be the best way to do it. But they also did add now some color coding on buttons, some styling on the buttons. So they're working on it. But I think just for us, at least, we found the functionality is just a little too limited with them to really get going with Wizards.
You're a wizard, Harry. I'm a what? You're a wizard. Did you ever see that YouTube video from many, many,
Yeah,
many years ago?
many years.
Where it just goes the same thing repeating. I'll never get that out of my head. It just came back. What do I do? All right, a little throwback for you there, folks. All right, moving on. Zoho Meeting. You can now automate your meeting workflows using Zoho Meeting and Flow integration. Um, Fantastic.
Why not?
There you go. Why not?
So
I
Flow, for
can't
those
tell
who
you.
don't know, is essentially it's like the Zapier equivalent, right? Quick third-party integration tool. So I'm assuming here you can make a meeting, add it to a calendar event, so on and so forth.
Yep.
The downside of doing
Yeah.
it this way is always just that the client or the recipient's going to receive two emails: the like create of the calendar event and then the update of it to add a Zoom. Whereas like Calendly, Zoom, and Google Cal just do it all in one step. So
Right.
while it is going to work, it might not be as smooth as a custom built integration to your calendar.
So I was working with someone the other day who had set up bookings. I have to say, bookings is looking good. It's still deficient in a few areas, I mean, as far as checking
Calendar
calendars and
integration.
how it's checking them and what it's doing in the integration. But um, it works well. It did the meeting integration well. When you book the meeting, it doesn't send you an invite to add it to your calendar. It tells you right there in the browser, add to your calendar. Better
Mhm.
than nothing, right? So you can add it to your calendar there. So some progress on there. I mean, I have to say they've made some progress on bookings as it relates to meeting though, and testing that out. This started off on a Zoom call and then went to meeting to look at it. Man, Zoho, you got to get your data centers up. That it was just night and day.
It's bad.
Just
Yeah, the quality is
just awful,
bad.
just awful. I mean, Meeting
Yeah,
almost needs to drop all the way back down into the no category because the quality of the meeting when we were running one side by side in Zoom that was perfect, and then you just
yeah.
hang up Zoom and go to Meeting, and it was just awful, just awful.
Yeah, it
So
always would
we
sound
gotta do something
when
there,
you and
guys.
I would be on a Zoho meeting together, I'd always get a kick out of it because it sounded like you were coming through on like, AirPod head or,
Yeah,
microphone. Meanwhile, we've got these, big fancy mics in front of us and it just kills your quality.
yeah. Tin
Um,
cans or something. Anyway, yeah,
yeah,
so the team there, nothing's changed. I'll use this as an opportunity to update. Nothing's changed in our opinion of this application, but now you've got Zoho Flow integration. So, all right, and moving on, Zoho Marketing Plus, new add-ons to Backstage. This is something we did our whole add-on, we did our whole bundle webinar this week, Tyler. And um, so in the Marketing Plus bundle, which is what they're referring to here, you get Backstage, but you don't get the enterprise event. You have to buy different add-ons, and it's been
yeah.
rather
Backstage is a
complicated.
very compartmentalized product in that way. It's the same
It
with Zoho
is.
One. You get one event per year or something that you can run through the Zoho One version. So
Right.
there's definitely they get you with some add-ons when it comes to Backstage.
They get you with a lot, and so what they've done is they've kind of tried to simplify the overall bundles as it relates to Marketing Plus. I hope these these add-ons simplify for other bundles as well. So that's what they're talking about here, and you can read about it in our newsletter if you're interested. Alrighty. And then we're going to wrap up the news with just dropping literally about 3 hours ago. There's actually less than that, maybe 2 hours ago. There's a Zoho People August 2022 newsletter, Tyler. So for those of you who are Zoho People Letter users, um, go check it out. There's your newsletter. All kinds of cool stuff in here. They've got always have webinars coming up. They've got an overview of Zoho People coming up on August 23rd. We talked about that earlier. Features of the month, tips of the month. It's the Zoho People newsletter for August 2022. That's all there is. With
That's all
that,
there is to
Tyler,
say.
let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our implementation of the week.
Alrighty, so this is a implementation that we did for one of our customers who is in the software as a service industry. So they actually sell and service software to a myriad of different kind of like hospitality, restaurants, hotels. And essentially, what they do internally for their systems is they're using the CRM for prospecting and sales. They're using Zoho subscriptions with a lot of customization to actually manage the ongoing billing. But then for like the post sales engagement and customer management, they're using a tool called Totango, which is a customer engagement platform that's kind of tailor made for SaaS companies. And so essentially, what the long term goal here was is that inside of Zoho, we have all their different subscription data where a specific customer might have more than one subscription for different services. And they also might have more than one subscription for a myriad of different locations, right? You might have like a master company that's managing 10 child entities, and each of them has a subscription. But for our customers' use case, they don't care about each individual location, they care about that master customer. And so there were kind of two steps to this build out. First, we had to be able to roll up all of the active subscriptions against each of those kind of master entities. We did that inside of Zoho Analytics using a custom SQL table, essentially just rolls up all of that data. Um, and then once we had it formatted in Analytics, all we had to do is create a scheduled function that on a weekly basis is going to read that table that basically has all of the customers, their customer ID, and their monthly recurring revenue. So it takes all of that data, reformats it into a JSON structure that can be accepted by Totango. And then we just make a quick API call over to Totango to bulk load the new monthly recurring revenue values. Um, so kind of a nice little implementation. Definitely saved them time because this is just being done manually before right? As subscriptions are being upgraded or downgraded or canceled, right? The team was basically manually reviewing them and then going into Totango to make the updates to their MRR there. But so this basically just eliminates the need to touch it ever. It's just going to run in the background and keep everything accurate for them, so that when they open up their customer accounts on an ongoing basis, they always have a accurate view of exactly what the monthly recurring revenue is for that given account.
And that
It's
is
kind of a
super
fun one
slick.
here. Use a couple different platforms. We find ourselves doing this a lot where Zoho Analytics serves as like the data management house. Like you could run a scheduled function that would actually do the roll up of subscriptions in Deluge, but you would just use so many more API calls. So by doing all that data management on the analytics side, you just have to make one call over to there, right, to get a whole big bank of data and then do with it whatever you need.
Very, very nice. That's cool, man.
Yeah,
A
shout
lot of,
out to Joe Paulo for building this one out. I know that was a fun project for him.
shout out to you for pronouncing his name correctly. That's pretty good.
Hopefully, hopefully. Apologies if I didn't get it right, JP. I'm working on
All right, and let's move on to our code share of the week. All righty, and this, if you're not familiar with this, club.zenatta.com. Head over to club.zenatta.com, join our community, and over at club.zenatta.com or just Club Zenatta, you will find code shares. You can ask us questions. You can participate in discussion. You got all sorts of things. But we always have our developers are always dropping in a nice piece of code share. And this one is by our newest developer, Alex. We're so glad to have him on the team. And kind of piggybacking off a lot of stuff Josh has been doing lately with all of his tutorials on Zoho Creator. This is using an HTML snippet to put a download a file button inside of your
it.
Creator application. So pretty simple, Tyler. Just a little bit of code here, drop it right on in, and away you go. And it's also got a link to the documentation. So if you're doing stuff in Creator, you need to have allow somebody to download a file, you can go ahead and drop this in.
Yeah, and really, this is like a UI thing, right? More than anything else. So, imagine a scenario where a certain workflow fires off inside a creator that generates a quote, right? Or generates a proposal, and it uploads that proposal to a specific file upload field. This is essentially a way to create like a button, right? So, like a nice, clean, easy way to click one thing and trigger the download for whichever file is uploaded to a particular field. So like it could be, a salesperson creates a proposal and uploads it, submits it to approval for their manager, and the manager presses this button to easily download and review it. So it's just kind of a quick one. We do a lot of this with these custom buttons inside of Creator. And when I say we, I mean Josh and our development team, because it just allows you to make the system so much more usable. Like you surely could go in and just click on the file upload field and download it from there, but when you want to surface it in like a list view or as part of a specific process, it really does work a lot better to create a nice little HTML button like this. So great work to the team.
And as always, guys, like we talked about it earlier here, if you do head over to Club Zenatta, you can participate in our general discussion forum, our code share forum. You can ask Tyler and I questions that will appear on the show. You can stay up to date with all the latest news in real time as it happens. There's all kinds of good stuff going on here as well. So drop on over and participate. We currently have got 424 people actively participating in here. So come on over and join the discussion. All right. And with that, Tyler, let's get on into our read of the week. All right. So neither one of us we knew that this existed prior to us
Only
reading
been
this.
5 years.
Yeah. So Zoho has an initiative called Zoho for Startups, and it is now quasi going global. This has, I guess, it was a program that was initially just being rolled out over in India over the last period of time. And they are now going to start rolling it out globally, and they're starting with the EMEA, Middle East and Africa, and they're going to start rolling it out there. So it's impacted more than 9,000 startups in India through the last 5 years, with over 150 collaborations that include incubators, 70 plus accelerators, government bodies, and co-working spaces across 19 states in India. So basically helping startups get going. And so it's a very, very nice little program. And now they're rolling it out. So this is a pretty cool program. I had no idea this was even going on, Tyler.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. It kind of sounds like essentially what they're doing is plugging in at like an incubator, a facility, right, that has a bunch of startups and
Yeah.
essentially just giving out credits, right? So people can get onto their
Yeah.
software at a reduced cost and get going with it. I mean, I think for early stage companies, right, Zoho just makes so much sense. Really like at the end of the day, when you're in that startup mode, you just need your software to work. You don't need Salesforce. You don't need something so crazy and big and enterprise. Like, you really just need something that's going to cover a lot of bases. Down at the bottom, it mentioned that I think the main applications that they see being used in this are Books, CRM, and Click, which makes total sense, right? Your
Hmm.
early stage, your accounting's probably pretty simple. Books is going to get it done for you, right? CRM can be used for tracking your sales as well as tracking your investors. I think that's also an important element of CRM if you're doing fundraising is essentially have a pipeline, right, for raising money. So interesting platform, interesting service, and I'd love to see it come to the US because I think that it's a great way for Zoho to kind of get themselves out there in front of companies that are kind of up and coming and looking to grow.
Yeah. And they mentioned here again, Zoho has crossed that 80 million user mark globally. So uh, fantastic stuff. Fantastic. All right. And with that, let's check out what's new over on Zenatta. Well, I referenced this earlier, Tyler, but we did our Zoho Bundles 2022 overview. I have to say, I think this turned out well. It ends up at 50 minutes long, and you know, I don't know how we managed to talk about bundles for 50 minutes, but we did. And we basically went through all of the current active bundles in the world of Zoho and what their benefits are and if you should use them. And so this is basically, if you don't want to watch a 50-minute video, we'll just go ahead and read this and you'll be up to date. And you can, of course, always just head over to our resource guide, go to our bundles page, and all of the bundles are broken down there as well. You can just kind of click through and get to any of the bundles you might be interested in. A little cheat. We, in order to do the webinar, we basically just worked off this, but we needed some more information. So this little icon here takes you to the hidden page that we used to talk about when we did our webinar. So this kind of gives you a little more info on that as well. So anyway, that's what's going on over at Zenatta. If you don't know, we have so many resources. We talked about the yes, no, maybe earlier in the show. This is where we rate the applications. Should you use them? Why you shouldn't use them, what the advantages are, what's going on there. We have our blog, new content every single week. You can access Club Zenatta from here. There's just so much. Head over to zenatta.com and there's stuff for you there. You can learn more about Zoho. So fantastic. All right. And with that, let's get to our pick of the week. Tyler, this is the same company back to back here. They released another application. So last week we had the address validation tool, and it's by a company called Client Centric out of Canada. What's that gentleman's name? Um,
Casey.
Casey. Yep. Had actually a chance to chat with him on Cliq the other day. He wanted to thank you for finding that one. I just had mentioned we found this other one as well. They're doing good work. I guess they aggressively wanted to put out a marketplace app a month. He said they're falling a
Mhm.
little behind that, but I'm impressed with what they're doing. This is something that we've solved for this many, 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 many ways over time. but I think for a lot of people, this is just a basic time tracker for CRM. So, if you are in a contact, a deal, an account, you've just got a little button so somebody can be in a contact or in an account and start the timer, and it will go ahead and run that timer. And then when they're done working on that account, they can stop the timer. It has the ability to apply hourly rates to it. It keeps it in a separate module. Um, it's very cool, I have to say. I'm impressed. A very very simple little tool, but something that a lot of people ask for. And if you're looking for something simple like this to track time inside your CRM, I think they've done a nice job of implementing this.
Yeah, I think the idea of tracking time against deals, if you're doing sales management, right? You might want to know like you could actually get a more accurate idea of your customer acquisition cost if you were tracking the time of your salespeople actually working those deals. Now that does rely, right? They got to actually be in the record, click on the button when they're doing it. But if you standardize that as part of the process, there's a lot of value here. I mean, a lot of what the
Yeah.
CRM is essentially built to do is like understand what's working, what isn't, and the ROI of various things, right? And so actually being able to track your time is a pretty cool way to do it. I remember back, seems like a million years ago, we built a similar thing in tasks, didn't we? Where when you created a
Yeah.
task, or when you check a box to start a timer, which would put in the date time, and then
Yeah.
when you completed it, it would do the completion date time, and we would calculate the difference. But
Right.
this is a way where you can just turn that on rather than doing a weird little workaround like we did.
Yes. And now we have a massive creator application that
And
manages
it
all
does it
that.
all,
But
yeah, it's a whole different
yeah, this
level.
is pretty slick though. I have to say, it looks like it's free. It is free. Nice job. They're doing some good stuff over there. I'm looking to get them on the show here and kind of, you know, deep dive what they're doing and what they're doing. Because, there was another conversation going on earlier this week. There's a community for just Zoho partners to talk about. And someone was talking about the lack of really good marketplace apps and the vetting of the marketplace apps. And so we really like to point them out when we can find good ones because there is a lot of garbage in here. So, but stick with us. If you see an app that's pick of the week, most likely it's going to be a winner for you. And with that, Tyler, let's get right on into the tip of the week. Josh is chugging right along. This is getting started with Zoho Creator Part 4, where he covers user roles and permissions. It's a great series. If you haven't been following it, you basically, if you want to start using Creator, we're getting a lot of people loving this. So it's good stuff, Josh, and really appreciate all the work you're doing on this.
And I think in this video with user roles and permissions, definitely an important one to watch, right? You don't want to just deploy an application where everybody is admin. So essentially going through here, the difference between permissions, difference between, roles and how those affect things, looking at custom roles and how they affect data sharing, and then looking at the ability to customize a record owner on the fly. Definitely worth checking out. Again, Josh is the guy for all things creator, and we're stoked that he's taking the time to make these videos. So make sure to jump on over to youtube.com/Zenatta and take a look at these. No better place to get started with Zoho Creator.
Nope. And by the way, since we last talked, we crossed over the 1,000 subscriber mark to 6,000 subscribers.
I
What does that mean?
think a devil gets
So
his horns, right?
I thought an angel got his wings. Wow, go negative on me, man. No. So yeah, we are another angel has gotten their wings, devil's horn. Anyway, we're really stoked about this. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. We are putting out new content here all of the time. I mean, if you just look, and just this week alone, we did a week ago, we did the episode, then we did which bundle's right for you, then we do chart of accounts and Zoho books, then getting started. That's just this week. This is high quality content. You can learn from it. We talk, Tyler, you and I both are on the sales side here. We talk to people, I don't know, every day I'm talking to people that go, man, thank you so much for your videos. I've learned so much. I find them helpful. We really appreciate the fact that you enjoy these, and we will keep doing them from you. So if you haven't, please subscribe to our channel. That's youtube.com/Zenatta. And I guess if you click that little bell, you'll get reminded every time we post a new video. Alrighty. Daryl asks, how does Zoho calculate depreciation on a monthly basis in Zoho Books? It doesn't.
Yeah, not really natively. There's kind of two ways to do it. You can either do it with journal entries, which you could make recurring, right? So you could set up recurring journal entries that would basically hit the relevant accounts and do that depreciation for you. We also have built out like very simple little creator apps where you basically load an asset and its schedule, and then it will automate making the recurring journals for you. But honestly, it's probably a good opportunity there for kind of an explainer video because the way that Zoho does it is kind of funky. So, Daryl, I think thanks for the question because while those are the two kind of ways to do it, it would be helpful for us to maybe put together a quick video on how exactly that works. As we get the question all the time because you go in there kind of expecting to see like assets and a place to put your
Right.
assets and a place to put the schedule, but it's all journal entry driven. So it can be a little bit funky to pick up.
Alrighty. And next question, Steve is asking after watching our last week's CRM Zen show. Hey, love your show, guys. I've created a custom field for items inside inventory. This field is an attachment field that holds a spec sheet PDF. Is it possible to configure Zoho to include that PDF in an email when sending a sales order to a customer? I'm tired of my customers calling me for spec sheets on our products all day. I need an automation. Well, yes, but highly complicated, right, Tyler? A lot of custom code and scripting here to make
It's
that
it's
happen.
one of those things where like I'm sure we can do it. It just will be a little bit tricky, right? And so it might require like the essentially what I'm looking at when I look at this is like, can we easily download that PDF from the file upload field, or do you have to put like a URL and put it in work drive so we can download it from there? So there's some like nitty gritty and nuance around how exactly you'd proceed to get this done. Definitely would require a lot of deluge. They would probably have to go out as a separate email or kind of like a custom email so that they can be attached dynamically. So it's one of those things, Steve, where like I'm sure if you bang on it with some deluge, you can get this done. It would just be a little bit of nitty gritty stuff that needs to get worked out to really make it work for you.
Could you could you read the line items and then just drop in URLs rather than do an attachment? Like, could you parse the line items and say, okay, these are the line items, and then add 3 links to the bottom
Oh, like
of
if they
the
hosted their spec sheet on their website somewhere on like
just
an
put the
unlisted
spec, yeah,
page.
just put the
Yeah.
spec sheets online. So rather than going through the trouble of
Zenatta.com
attaching it,
slash spec sheet slash item 12345, and then you're just referencing
right?
them. Yeah, you may
That
be
might be
able to pull them
easier.
into like a line item field if you did something like that. It's a pretty interesting way to tackle it, but you wouldn't need to deal with files via API, which would be kind of nice. You would just really be
True.
directing people to a page.
Yeah. And I think we did that before with the description. So you could always add the URL into the description. This was a long
Mm.
time ago, but it was like if you had a line item and you did it in the description field, you just had a
Always
link to the
pulls
spec
in.
sheet.
Yeah,
And
the
so that's
description
just
is always
that
going to pull in.
there's nothing that's done
Yeah,
there. You're just
actually, you know
basically
what, Steve? I
putting,
take it back. Don't do my idea. Do Brett's. Put them on the website. We'll say it like it was my idea. Put them on your website. Put a URL to it in the description of the item, and then that'll just show up on the sales order.
yeah. See, that's why you need to listen to the show because once a year, I'm right. Okay. I come up with
Yeah,
something. I got an idea.
that's a good one. I
That's
like
it.
that idea.
I'm done for the year, man. Just go
Yeah,
retire.
you're clocking out.
All right. Lily, after watching our Zoho Projects full product tutorial 2022, asked the question that cracked Tyler and I up today. Awesome content. Can more than one project be added to one project? Example, can a portfolio of projects be created as one project? Lily, I mean, I guess I think these would be milestones, wouldn't they, Tyler? You basically would set
Yeah,
something up like that.
it kind
I'm
of
trying to.
depends on how you're using it. So there's two ways you could look at it. If you're just inside of projects, then like not really. What you'd be looking at doing is using like a templated task list or having different milestones to represent each like portfolio project. If you're doing this within, let's say, CRM and projects, you could make multiple projects under one deal and have your deal represent like the master, and then each project is like the portfolio project underneath it. But within Zoho projects itself, you can't like nest a project within a project. So you might need to look at using milestones or task list templates that you can pull in dynamically. Um, but yeah, it's a little bit tricky.
All righty. And then after watching the CRM Zen Show episode 210, Old McZoho had a farm. uh, IntelliState Network Corp asked, "Will Zoho Books ever work? Can Intuit QuickBooks be integrated in place of Zoho Books?" Well, yes, Zoho Books will kind of work. They did fix the bug we talked about last week on the PSA. It seems like Zoho Books has been great. It has just, I will tell you, they've had a rough 6 months, Tyler. There's just been
Yeah.
all sorts of crazy things going on. For the most part, I haven't had any trouble with Zoho Books over the years. There are minor things. We just talked about it. Does it do depreciation? No. Um, it doesn't handle equity accounts. It doesn't handle loans very well. It doesn't do
Progress billing is a
progress
sticking point for a
billing.
lot of people.
Um,
So yeah, it's
it
it's
clearly
certain
sits in
key
our mate.
features.
What's
Yeah,
that?
it's certain key features. Like when a customer comes to us looking to migrate from QuickBooks to Zoho Books, first thing we do is set them up with John Oda, our director of finance, because he has a background in QuickBooks. Because there's really just a few little sticking points for people with the QuickBooks versus Zoho Books discussion, where like,
Yeah.
hey, if you don't do progress billing, great, no problem. Zoho Books is going to be perfect for you. Like, but if you there are just those certain little things where it's just like, no, that's something that you can't give up. But generally speaking, I mean, we've got bunches of clients on Zoho Books. We're on it ourselves. It's a solid product. It's just, there's going to be a couple things it doesn't do.
Right. I mean, honestly, I think it works for 80% of clients. Now, all of the broken bank feeds, all of the issues, I know that can cause a lot of frustration. But the other part of your question is can Intuit QuickBooks be integrated in place of Zoho Books? Zoho QuickBooks Online, if you're using the online edition, we do some amazing things there. I mean, it sits as a related list live in context. I mean, there's probably nothing we can't do from that perspective, right? Auto generating invoices, pulling them in.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I think we've done
no
it
big
all,
deal.
right?
Yeah, as long as
Yeah.
you're on QuickBooks Online. If you're on
Yeah.
QuickBooks
If you're on
Desktop,
desktop,
it is a walled garden. The best you can try to do is use the data bridge that Zoho Analytics provides and pull the desktop
yep,
data into Analytics, but that is a path fraught with peril. It is
yep.
a pain in the butt to try to get that thing to work.
Well, and I do a
So yeah,
shout out to ZBrains. They have a desktop connector, but then, we have a client running into issues that's not ZBrains' fault, but Zoho only allows you to pull 200 line items in, right? No matter what you're doing. So anyway, go with if you're using QuickBooks Online, that integration is, it's custom, but, not hard to do.
very doable.
Yep. All righty, and then InstaChow, which I want to trademark that. That's going to be our new food delivery
Food
service,
delivery app.
Tyler. We're going to get that going. Instant Chow. After watching Creating a Webhook with Zoho Flow says, "Do you have any examples of webhooks to Zoho inventory? I'll be looking to possibly create sales orders or simply address inventory levels." What are your thoughts
So,
there?
yeah, we don't have a video of doing a webhook into Zoho inventory. You could follow a very similar path that we did for this video, where I think in this creating a webhook one, we pointed it to like, CRM leads and things like that. The tricky thing with using Flow for this case is like to create a sales order or create an inventory adjustment is that it requires list data, like a list of items on your sales order or inventory adjustment, where you're likely going to need to make a webhook in Flow and then feed it into like a deluge function that can properly process your list data into these records. So you can do the same kind of first steps of setting up an endpoint and catching data, but you might need to get a little bit more fancy to get it where it needs to go to create inventory records.
All righty. And then Derek, after watching the purchase process in Zoho Books, says, if I only have Zoho Books, the receives does not exist. If I enable Zoho Inventory in Zoho Books, it gives me access to the receives function. Do I have to pay for Zoho Inventory now, even though I don't use Zoho Inventory except tracking if I receive full orders, partial orders? Yes, Derek, you have to pay for it. Now they have a free version. If you're doing less than 50, transactions a month, you're good. Otherwise, you can just do a single user, and I want to say it's $50 a month, um, and you should be good to go there. Anything you'd add to that, Tyler?
Nope. You have to have inventory for the
Yep,
receives to pop up.
yep. All righty. And then Paul, after watching our AbleBits application review 2020, which we looked up, which is over 2.5 years ago, said, hey, this is cool. And yeah, I get it. But I work with importing data from different sources, and I would have to repeat all of the cleanup functions every time I imported that dirty data. Whereas if I set columns that use syntax to clean up the data, then every time I import the raw data, the syntax looks into the problem columns and performs the cleanup automatically. Yes, it's an investment in time initially, but no need to keep repeating cleanup functions. Paul, good solution. When we recorded that, that's kind of a simple, you want to do a one-off little cleanup for what you're talking about. I think, Tyler, our default on that is always going to be pulling things into analytics, cleaning it up there, right?
Yeah, analytics
Pushing
or
that
data
down,
prep, depending on how
data prep.
intense the cleanup is that you need to do. We'd recommend setting up, because what you could do with analytics is, import your data into a raw table, build a SQL table that reformats it, proper cases it, does whatever you need to do. So you're basically importing to one and then just downloading from the other. If the data cleanup is really simple, like you just need phone number formatting, splitting first and last name, then you could likely just do it in data prep and save yourself like a template to use where you import and just download the result.
And any more? We've got another one. Philip Bauer over at club.zenatta asked the question, hi guys, my request is there any chance that I can change the journey from an unsubscribe button? Because it directly brings the customer on the site where they can just subscribe and erase their information. But I want the site where they can choose their preferences, themes is shown first. Is that possible? Thanks for your answers and ideas.
Yeah, so the two buttons are the unsubscribe and the edit preferences. I don't think you can remove the unsubscribe. Like, I don't think it's kosher to only provide one. I think you do have to provide them both. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know if you know differently, Brett, on that, but they are two
no,
buttons. They are, distinctly different pathways, but I don't think you're really allowed to get rid of the unsubscribe and force them to go to edit preferences.
I don't think so. You know what? If there's a different answer to this, since this is over on Club Z, we'll have Wayne maybe drop a different answer in for you if there is one, or maybe he can give some clarification around this. He's kind of our campaigns guru who lives inside there on a day-to-day basis. He can give you some additional thoughts on that. Right. We got a live chat
Ooh,
question. Oh, and this
that's
is white on
black.
white. So for those of you who can read that, so Artie Beatty asks, could tickets in desk do what Steve wants to do? I can't remember what Steve wanted to do. Remember what Steve wanted to
We
do
wanted
there,
to do
Tyler?
the sending of spec sheets over to,
Ah,
you could like route them through desk, but I think with Brett's idea, I don't even think you really need to, because if the link is in the description, then it would
right.
go into the line item on the sales order, and they would just have it right there. Like, you could set up an automation where when a sales order is like confirmed, let's say, it creates tickets for each item and sends out the spec sheets. But I don't think for Steve's use case, I almost think it's easy enough to just send it out just directly on the sales order.
Okay, and then Lawrence asks, how could I make a proposal either in CRM and books that I can make a good, better, best proposal where the client chooses one or more proposals and can select additional upgrades on the signature page? Well,
Not really
gosh,
with
I imagine you could do it, but I mean, PandaDocs is kind of the go-to for that kind of thing,
Yeah, where you need it to
right?
be like a form and a signature. Like for
Yeah,
Zoho, you could surely create, like if on a deal, you could choose good, better, or best, and it could conditionally create you a document that matches whatever option is chosen. But I don't think there'd be a real good way, unless someone chimes in and tells me I'm wrong, to give the user the ability to fill out choice in the document and have it like
right.
proceed based on that choice.
Yeah. Well,
I guess you
PandaDocs
could, like
is
you
the
could
way.
present
And
multiple
PandaDocs,
pages. No, I guess you could present multiple pages. You could give them like a radio choice at the end, like pick one of three and a signature, and then when the document is signed, you could read which one they picked and then go back to the deal and make some updates there. But so there's a
well,
way, Lawrence. It's pretty custom, using again, kind of using CRM's mail merge and then routing it to Zoho Sign for some like choices that they would need to make. So it would really just depend on like what exact UI you need and what you need to have happen based on what they pick. But you should be able to get it done.
well, look, if you're going to try to do it inside of Zoho natively, though, Tyler, you're going to send it out using Zoho Sign most likely for signature on the signature page, and all you're going to have is a choice of radio buttons there, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we well, look, we're big believers in keeping everything 100% inside Zoho if you can. We do all our proposals that way, so you could make it work the way Tyler's describing. If you want something kind of super elegant, where as they select things, it actually updates the pricing table,
Yeah, that's
it gives them all their kind of stuff, changes live on the proposal, then you're going to want PandaDocs. You really
yeah.
are. I haven't used it in years because we haven't had a need for it. But and I do love their integration with Zoho. So that's kind of maybe something to look at. I don't know.
Yeah, and
Alrighty.
Josh is also highlighting that Zoho Forms
Ooh,
has an integration with Zoho Sign, so you could set up like a form that has it wouldn't quite look like a proposal, right, when they're kind of choosing their options. But you could make like again, we're getting into the nitty gritty, but like you could make a web page where you're passing content and then they're going through and filling out which stuff they want on a form, and then that's kicking over to Zoho Sign. So again, there's a couple ways to do it, but what you're probably hearing is essentially there's some workaround ways to do it natively with Zoho, or you could use something like PandaDocs and just integrate that to Zoho.
the forums though is a great idea. It really
Yeah,
is. So they basically choose it, then it dynamically generates that contract based on what they chose,
yeah.
right? Puts it in a sign. That's great call, Josh. And I guess Cody was typing that out at the same time. So
Cody gets half credit.
yeah, give him a quarter credit. Josh
Quarter
got it
credit.
out there.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Um, all right, and I think that's it. We done?
I think
We're
that's it for
done.
today.
Medmiser wants to let us know that he loves Bombas socks, but the Bombas daily newsletter about underwear is just driving him crazy. So you want to unsubscribe from that? I know it's a problem. Um, it's go back to our newsletter subscribe preferences. So I like that. Alrighty, guys. As always, thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to talk to Tyler and I, book a meeting with us, maybe hire Zenatta to help you, just head over to Zenatta.com. And as we talked about earlier in the show, if you want to ask us a question, just engage in our community, please go over to club.zenatta.com.
On our website is where you'll find complete episodes of the show, as well as links to all the stories we discussed today. We'd love if you would follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Friday.
Fantastic. I'm COVID-free, Tyler. Feeling
Feeling better?
good.
I know, I'm feeling the energy today from you. Yesterday, you went off a cliff, man.
It was horrible, dude.
It just fell apart. You
Hell,
seemed
man.
fine in the morning, and then just it happens.
I died. Yeah, it was like its last gasp to just take me out yesterday. So anyway,
I had the same thing with me.